The Indian government has banned more than 200 Chinese apps, citing national security concerns. What does this app ban mean for the Chinese app economy? Is this an opportunity for Indian apps to make their mark? To understand this, we have with us Mr. Prashant Pansare. Mr. Pansare is the Managing Director of Inteliment Group and CEO of Rubyscape Labs. Over the last 20 years, under his leadership, his companies have achieved remarkable success, with Deloitte recognizing him as the CEO of a fast-growing company. He is a mentor, an advisor, and an investor, and helps several startups. Mr. Prashant, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
These Chinese apps that are banned, are they just a retaliatory measure for what's happening in LSE, or are they really a threat to our national security? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, let me thank you for inviting me to share my thoughts here, and also appreciate the kind of work that you're doing in terms of creating awareness about the digitization, about the changing India. I think that is also need of hour, and especially with things that are happening around, it is very important that we create more and more awareness about the new Bharat that is emerging. Coming to your question, what I feel is it's quite timely that if India has to emerge as the economic superpower, digital superpower, there are several things that are happening and how we can take our stand with little firmness. Now, what happens? One of the challenge in India, be it our journalism, be it our industry, or be it in our society at large, there has been some kind of cynicism that we generally see. The optimism levels in our society are generally low. Today, we can certainly understand, considering the COVID, the lockdown impact, the global recession that is happening. But if you actually look at it from little open, point of view, look at the Indian population. We are about 140 crore population. If you look at our tele-density, it is second largest in the world. And if you look at some of our numbers, which are proportionate to our general population, to internet users, to mobile users, to smartphone users. And if you start looking at it from that perspective, one side is the market potential, the another side is what you have as the Indian sovereignty, the third side you have industry and economic impact. India being a software superpower, I certainly feel that it's time where we have to start building up our own apps and not look at things only from the political lens. That is it just a retaliation, or is it just the populist announcement? Whatever it is, I mean, if it is happening, I think the industry as a whole, the startup community, the mobile and game developer community, should sense a huge opportunity in this, what is happening. So these are my initial thoughts.
Right. So I'm sure you've interacted with a lot of Chinese entrepreneurs. So does this really hurt the Chinese app economy?
It will. And if you actually look at, let me divide this answer in 2-3 stages. One is, let's look at the national security issue that you actually brought up. That's very, very important, because if you see the undertakings, when you sign up any mobile application or any free internet service, what happens? Because they are free for us, we are very enthusiastic to get in there, because some of our friends are there, social media, and our own community has been there. So whether it is Facebook, WhatsApp, TikTok, any kind of an application, be it entertainment or be it commerce, whatever the purpose of these applications, we are very eager to get in there. So what happens? Without really reading and understanding the terms and conditions and the context, we just press the button that we accept all the user license agreement terms of usage by the provider, and we are on it. Now, when we are talking about the national security, you might think that, okay, what it has to do with the consumer who is using some entertainment app or some payment gateway app and things like that. But if you look at the kind of information that gets captured by any application, I'm not specifically saying any particular country application, it captures or it asks you for an access to your device. Means the location, built-in sensors. They also have very strong and smart GPS systems for geofencing. It also asks you an access to your storage, which is the images and videos and contact books and so on. So understand, without you really realizing that what it means is that your personal security is actually being compromised there, because you yourself are giving a consent without understanding it. And like an enterprise, maybe you have a software, you have a system, you have a server, you have some security being implemented, you can actually put some rules. But in this case, what happens, a individual user with his own consent is actually giving an access inside your room, and then there is no lock, right? So anything that can be actually captured, whether it is your movement, whether the kind of time that you're spending and all of that. Now if you look at it from the sovereignty point of view and security point of view, at a macro level, yes, it is a concern. And I would not like to name any company, but there has been a lot of discussion that are happening on the global arena, especially with some of the Chinese companies that have signed an agreement with the government of China for claiming certain incentives and subsidies, that their undertaking has also clearly stated that the data that gets trafficked from their products and networks will be accessed by the government of China. And by the time several governments and large corporates realized it, there has been certain movement of especially in the 5G movement, right?
Right.
And you will say that, okay, probably what 5G has to do with this, but it is end of the internet traffic pipe that is getting broader and broader, and then from macro level to a micro level, you're being able to deep delve into it and know the activities that are happening, whether it is political, government, whether it is a particular community based, and all of that, right? I mean, if you look at globally, almost 1 trillion devices are generating more than 2.5 quintillion of data, and 80% of that data is unstructured data. So it is like, when you're looking at your camera for shooting maybe on a TikTok, understand that camera is also looking at you. It's not only giving you an independent videography, but it is capturing your real-time location, your so many things that are actually there inside your device, and then it is pushing it into a server which is not known to the user, that where this is getting stored, used, reused, misused, and all of that. So it certainly has a very, very serious security related aspect. It also has certain data sovereignty related aspect.
You're right in saying that India is a software powerhouse in itself. So what I want to ask you is that, is the Indian app ecosystem equipped now to build apps that can replace these Chinese apps, or is there something that it needs to do in order to replace them here in the domestic market, and also maybe hopefully in the international markets as well?
Well, that's quite a tricky question, and I would actually take a view a little differently. Your question is that can Indians build app, right? Indians have been building apps, right? But they are not owning the apps. And let me give you a different analogy. If you look at construction industry and look at the world's iconic structures, maybe in Dubai, Burj Khalifa, or some of the iconic structures, we have a lot of civil industry workers who are actually contributing to build these kind of structures. But why don't we build those type of structures? And it has also to do with the mindset. It is social mindset. It also has to do with industry mindsets. And for ages we've been taking pride in stating and sharing that so much of a percentage of Indian software engineers are building so much innovative technology for the global markets. But why don't we have such companies in India? Why we are always being considered as a sophisticated, cheap software labor in international markets in terms of building enterprise software or technology or hardware systems or even apps? Mobile apps actually give you much more autonomy. Especially if you're an innovator and an expert programmer, it doesn't really require too much of a gamut of things to actually build it up. This is my very, I would say, candid and frank opinion. We have not been able to build it, not because we don't have a skill set, but we lack mindset. Now, last few years, we are actually shifting from knowledge economy to an experience economy. And let me explain that to you. What is a knowledge economy? That you have, a lot of technological stuff that is actually generating the digital kind of data and systems, and then you are being informed about what is happening around, right? So after computer era, the digitalization or a knowledge society, now we are moving towards an experience economy. What does this mean? Is that the consumers, they do not have any loyalty, right? What they're looking at is the ease, speed, and an experience. So we are moving from knowledge economy to an experience economy. And to help you understand that a little more, today what is happening is the youth are actually going into the retail store. They actually try the jacket and they say, what is the price? And they maybe just go to Myntra or Amazon and look at the deal and then just buy it there. So what happens to, the physical store where they're actually going and trying and physically touching, feeling the product? So the customer loyalty is diminishing, and that is what the digital technology is doing to us. The commerce or the business sense behind it. So today what has happened, we saw that it is moving from industrialization to experience economy. And in experience economy, your manufacturer or a creator is wanting to get closer to the customer or a consumer. So one side you have creators and another side you have consumer. And in between, what you have as a supply chain is being replaced by these digital platforms which are called as aggregators. And there are different kinds of aggregators. There are mobile device aggregators, there are internet aggregators, there are service provider aggregators and stuff. So what has happened is that the users or consumers are getting a lot of options, and there are lots of creators who can be specialists, and they can only create that using aggregation, get to the customer side. Now let me give you an analogy of an experience economy. You have one side, you have the internet, and another side you have eyeballs. But these eyeballs are your consumers, and they're constantly looking for something, right? Whether it is a good service or even maybe having some fun or time pass on your aggregated platforms. So the eyeballs are constantly looking. Your internet is a pipe, and then other side you have the creators, content creators. We have been always only on the consumer side of it. Just think. I mean, if you're a consumer, you're paying. If you're content, you're a creator, you're earning. So why on earth we are not earning? So the way you can earn is either you have to be a physical good creator that gets dispatched. If I'm making a t-shirt using internet or an aggregator platform, I'm selling it, so I'm a creator. Now, if I'm not a t-shirt maker, but can I become like an Amazon marketplace where I have my marketplace? In Pune, we have this Bhim Tadi Jatra. What it does is that it actually gets, some women from Alpa Bachat Gat coming together, and they have a physical marketplace once a year. Now imagine that we have to go physically there, and they have been actually doing a lot of good. A lot of people like their, food items and stuff. Now, can somebody create that as a virtual marketplace of Bhim Tadi, and the consumers are actually getting connected there? Now, with the same analogy, you have your pickles and masalas and spices and, the Indian traditional Marathi food as a content, and then eyeballs. And then there are some app providers. Is it so difficult? The internet infrastructure is there. But what happens is that, this has, again, now I'm tying it up again with the market mindset and our culture, right? The startup is becoming a fashion now with the, I would say, student startups. Right? But entrepreneurship in India, especially in Maharashtra, has not been looked upon being a status symbol. Right? Society is changing, but we have a long way to go. If somebody has to get into a startup, probably the ecosystem will not be supportive. Even probably the support system will also not be very conducive. And that is what is actually not helping us in creating something like a Silicon Valley kind of a conducive ecosystem. And hence, most of the app builders, they actually are only building an app, take it to the concept till MVP, and then they withdraw or sell it off. They do not want to do it themselves to, bring it to certain level. I mean, if you see, look at the list of Indian unicorns, it is rising. But look at sustainable Indian unicorns, and there is a challenge, right? So what happens is that we look at this app building development as software developers. That if I do this kind of a programming, I build this app, but can I build a successful business out of it?
Hmm.
How much time even Amazon and Microsoft has taken to make it commercially successful and viable globally. But
Yeah.
maybe our folks have little very patience. They are not looking at global markets as their turf to play, and hence we only become app developers and we are not becoming successful app companies.
Right, right. And like you had mentioned just now, Pune has an important role to play in India's software economy, in the digital economy
Yes.
as well. So, going ahead, as an entrepreneur from Pune, do you think Pune can offer something more to Indian app developers?
A lot. And I'm not saying this because I'm myself a Punekar. Because as पु ल देशपांडे जसं म्हणतात की आपल्याला पुण्याबद्दल अभिमान नसतो तर जाज्वल्य अभिमान असतो. But keeping that aside, I'm actually
Yeah.
making a very, very neutral, remark here. Pune has a lot to offer, and there's a reason. If you
Hmm.
see traditionally, 10 years back, Indian software industry, city-wise, if you see the bifurcation, Pune was on number 7, right?
Hmm.
And today, if you see, Pune is on number 2 after Bangalore.
Yeah.
And there's very famous debate, in cricketing world, it was India and Pakistan, then it came in India and, Australia. So in the IT world, it is always Pune and Bangalore, right?
Hmm.
Bangalore is the IP capital, IT capital, and Pune is the IP capital.
Right.
If you see the GICs and most of the companies, multinational companies that are actually housing themselves in Bangalore, and hence it is called as an IT capital of India.
Hmm.
If you look at number of startups that are rising and number of GICs that are actually been shifting their research and development centers, there are maximum in Pune, and hence
Yeah.
Pune is referred as an IP capital, right? It says something. And let me also make a comment that when Pune has climbed up its rank from number 7 position to number 2 position, we still don't have an airport, right? So in
Hmm.
spite of not having a support ecosystem, Pune has been rocking with its growth potential. We certainly need a good amount of policy level support. We need certain infrastructure, which is not just an IT and a technology infrastructure, but the support infrastructure. We also need very, very powerful brand ambassadors, uh, like what Devang Mehta was to NASCOM, who can actually do the advocacy. We had, the Chief Minister of Hyderabad who actually put that onto an international map. We need some very serious, effective brand ambassadors like that so that Pune can leverage on its true potential, I feel.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Prashant. Definitely got a very new perspective because of the in-depth analysis you gave us on this. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'm sure there is entrepreneurs watching this video. Some of them will definitely get inspired to pick up their projects that they've been slacking on. So thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. On a sign off note, I would
Yeah.
only say to the new age entrepreneurs and people who want to get into the mobility and OTT,
Hmm.
my analysis of last 6 months has been the lockdowns has actually created more opportunity for digital disruptors. And if you actually look at the health tech, fintech, agri-tech, and digital OTT players has a huge potential in next 3 years, considering the impact of COVID.
Hmm.
So if people are thinking about their serious ideas, be it gamification or these three things, that I talked about, they should latch on to their, technology knowledge to build something that can solve some global problems in these particular spaces. So thanks for inviting me for these, sharing my views with the young entrepreneurs and innovators, and my best wishes for, the work that you're doing. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so much.